Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. I'm Ryan Bitsch, and in this video we're going to be continuing the Bitsch project where I've been recording all of the different Bitsch etudes over the course of over a year now. It's crazy I've been doing this long, but we're going to go a little bit deeper in this video, and we're actually going to cover some recordings that I made throughout the process of me practicing this piece so you can hear what it sounded like at the beginning, how it seemed to progress, and just some of my thoughts about deliberate practice using the Gold Method app and more. As many of you know, normally I just practice on my own, and then when I feel ready I make a recording, and then I share that recording and everyone can decide what they think of it. This time around I've been doing a lot of reading on deliberate practice, most specifically from the book Peak by Anders Ericsson, and it's really inspired me to figure out how can I get more feedback loops into my practice. How can I find out exactly how I'm doing in an objective way rather than just relying on what I think is happening while listening while I'm playing. Generally speaking, a teacher is going to be the best way to do that, but since I don't have a teacher on a regular basis, my next best option is to just record myself on a regular basis, so that's what I did. I used the Gold Method app, the Etude program on that, to organize my etude just like I always do, except this time I decided in the first week of my practice, I'm going to record the first and the fourth repetition of every single section that I do. When I first decided to record myself like this, it was just an arbitrary thing. I just said, well, why don't I record the first and the fourth rep? So when you're doing this on your own, there's really no right or wrong answer to this. As long as it makes sense while you're doing it, you can pretty much do anything, test it out, see how it works, and continue to refine. After having done this program, recording the first and the fourth reps were really amazing for me to be able to see actual progress throughout the process. I'm excited to kind of show you what I mean by that by playing my first rep of a section and then playing my fourth rep of a section. You can kind of hear what I'm talking about. But it was actually pretty motivating because I could hear, even if I wasn't perfect, which most of these are not perfect, not even close, but I can hear progress from repetition to repetition and a general trend in terms of progress as the week goes on. I generally try to be someone who is open to new ideas and trying new things, so I was excited to see what the result of this experiment would be, and I really hope that I can demonstrate through this video what this process was like for me so you can implement it in your own practice if you want to see what it's like for you as well. So to get started, we're going to dive into some of these recordings that I have here. I have 40 of them total, and you can see it goes all the way down here, all the way down to track 40, and then this is a run I did at the end of week 1, and then this full run right here is a run I did at the end of the program at the end of the 2 weeks, and then these are the final 2 recordings which I'll share at the end of this video. So what I tried to do was say, okay, we have day 1, we're gonna practice section 1, and then this is repetition 1, and then I also marked what tempo that the repetition was at so I could keep track of where I was, because this is a lot to keep track of. The easiest place to start is right here with day 1, section 1, repetition 1 at 43 beats per minute. So this is literally the very first thing I played in the entire program. I didn't do a run of it before this to get used to it because I already pretty much knew I wasn't going to be able to do it, and you'll hear I can't even really do it. This would have been half the tempo. Of my goal tempo was 86, this would be half of that tempo. But let's just take a listen to this and see what it sounds like, and then we'll go from there. Yeah, jumped the gun there. Jumped the gun there. Wrong notes. Alright, so there's a lot in there that can be improved. Generally speaking, my focus on this early stage was mostly on, is my air connecting everything? Do I have good flow from note to note? From there, there's obviously wrong notes, and I even was just having trouble figuring out how long one beat was. This is in quintuplets. You'll see the music later when I post that. It's in quintuplets though, so at this slow tempo, it was actually hard to wait for one entire beat to pass. So the next repetition I did was day 1, section 1, repetition 2, and for that that repetition, I actually did a mental rehearsal. I did a video on that. You can go check that out. I'll link that down in the description below, but basically that video is talking about how it's more or less me doing air patterns and really trying to make sure I'm hearing exactly what's there as a way to ingrain my mental representation, improve my mental representation. And then the third repetition I did, I actually just played it. So the first repetition is at 43, and then I would have done it at the mental rehearsal at 45. I would have played a regular repetition at 47, and then here we come to the fourth repetition at 49 beats per minute. Let's take a listen here. Hopefully we hear some improvement from the very first one through that mental rehearsal and then the other repetition. Okay, so as you can hear, much improved. And so that was just the first 4 repetitions I did of this entire program. What's exciting or encouraging for me was, like I said, I heard progress from one to the other. All of my playing, when the first repetition taught me, okay, there's missing notes, so which notes am I missing? Okay, you're not counting correctly, so how can we fix that? Okay, you're not really connecting these notes, so how can we fix that? And then each repetition becomes about refining those details. Rather than just going through the motions and hoping it gets better, I have specific things that I'm trying to get better that I heard from my recording. Now, we're all aware of the benefit of recording ourselves. I don't think anyone's gonna argue with that. I think what's important for me though here is it's not just about hearing yourself and going through the process of recording yourself, but really it's about what do I sound like and how can I move the needle forward. If you don't necessarily have a clear picture or a clear mental representation of what you want to sound like, it's gonna be really hard to identify spots for improvement. That's why when we're younger, we have teachers, they help us identify these spots for improvement. But when you're stuck, recording yourself and asking what things need to be better is one of the fastest ways that you're gonna be able to tell where you can drive improvement into your playing overall. All right, so that was section 1. Let's just listen to section 2 here. It's pretty short, and let's see what that one sounds like and see where we can make some improvement. So this section was easier, as you can tell, and so there was less to work out already right from the get-go. There's certainly some stuff in terms of the lightness that is just hard to tell at this tempo. It became more obvious as I got faster that I needed to work on sort of the articulation being light and sort of just like releasing the note with as much crispness as possible. But at this point, I'm just trying to get a sense of how the line feels, and so I do it again. Again, I do the first repetition I just played for you at 43, a mental rehearsal at 45, a regular repetition at 47 beats per minute, and then this one at 49. In general, I'm just trying to mostly center notes, keep them full, trying to get flow into my playing, things like this. Of course I want it to be musical, and of course I want it to be interesting, but I'm really focused, you know, in the very early stages of my practice, I'm focused on kind of these building blocks, making sure I know the notes, making sure I can go from one center of the pitch to the other, things like that. All right, so section 3 here, I actually had a lot of trouble with, and so I want to show this to you. I'll show you the next repetition, and then we'll kind of skip ahead because it's gonna take forever if I show you every single repetition. So this is day 1. This is the third section of the Etude, the first repetition at 43 beats per minute. It's a B flat, I couldn't figure it out. Wow. just problems everywhere. And I'm already at a slow tempo and there are problems everywhere, but problems or errors like this are alerting me to, well, they all most likely have a solution. So that one particular problem was I was playing a wrong note and I just couldn't seem to wrap my head around it. Also at the very end, you could hear I didn't really blow through the phrase there. So let's listen to this next repetition, or the fourth repetition, but this next recording, and we'll hear, is it any better? Did I make any progress in the 4 repetitions I had total? So obviously, just not centering. Right, so even that 4th repetition, there's still some problems with it. Obviously, the problem I had in the first repetition was fixed. That error was corrected. The end error was corrected. So one thing that we hope is we don't expect necessarily in our practice sessions to eliminate all errors all at once. But what would be great is the errors that we make, if we could fix them and then they don't show back up, then at least the errors led us to figuring out, well, here's how I can be successful. I'm making a lot of errors here, but I'm trying not to get down about it. I'm trying to think to myself, all right, it's early in the process, it's pretty normal. I don't need to abandon ship or anything like that. I just need to stay focused on trying to find solutions to the problems I am having. Okay, so let's skip ahead here. I want to go to, this is going to be day 2, section 1, repetition 1. So this is now the first section we already listened to, but it's the next day. What we're hoping here is that the learning that I did yesterday stuck today, or the learning that I did yesterday stuck 2 days from now, depending on when you see the section again. But hopefully the things I learned, I'm able to recreate because the tempo was about the same. I'm not jumping ahead. I'm just trying to say, can I come back here and recreate what I remember that I did before? Alright, so definitely a better first repetition this day than the previous day. There's still some wrong notes in there and there's still some things to figure out, but I'm starting at a higher place than I started yesterday. So again, we did some more repetitions, and then we got to repetition 4 at 54 beats per minute. So hopefully the work that I did in between rep 1 that we just listened to and rep 4 will have caused this repetition to be of a higher quality and more consistent than the one we just listened to. Let's find out if that's true. To me, it sounds like it was more consistent. So again, there was some learning that happened, and it's exciting. Again, at this stage in this process, the process of practicing this etude, I don't expect to go from I can't do it to I sound like the best trumpet player in the world overnight. But I can hear that I'm chipping away, not only in terms of bumping the tempo up gradually, but in terms of these recordings showing me that I am learning, I am understanding, and over the course of the next few weeks, I'm going to be able to continue to solidify this understanding into more automatic dynamic performance. Okay, so now we're gonna go back to section 3. This is the one with the leaps that I had a lot of trouble with trying to figure out earlier. This is now on day 3 of the program. And so we're just gonna take a listen. This is at repetition 1 at 47 beats per minute. Let's see if there was any learning that transpired from 2 days ago. Okay, so for my level of understanding of what this etude is, I'm actually kind of happy with that. Again, it may not be the most exciting yet, but for how well I understand what I'm doing and how much time I've spent with this etude, the fact that I can get around it, not make too many mistakes, play with a good sound, I'm pretty happy. So actually, on this first repetition, now I'm thinking to myself, I've got it. Now I just need to keep doing it on subsequent repetitions. So what we hope now is that I actually played on repetition 4 about the same quality that I played in repetition 1, just that it's faster. Let's see if that happened. So as you can hear, it's still not 100% perfect, but there is at least some understanding going on, and being 3 days into the process of learning this, I feel like I'm in a good place. So I'll just continue to try to focus hard and make sure I'm hearing everything I'm trying to play before I'm playing it, that I'm producing sound with healthy habits, things like that, and we hope that it just sort of works itself out as we continue to go through the process. So we're gonna skip ahead here to not that day, but this day right here. This is gonna be now the 3rd time I've seen section 1. It'll be a little bit faster, so we'll actually feel it start to get a little bit faster. Before it's been kind of slow. Now when it gets to 60 beats per minute, you'll hear it get faster. Can I hold on to the quality? Let's find out. One thing that I'm starting to hear in that repetition is actually, it sounds like there's a little bit of confidence actually, like I kind of maybe even know what to expect. Now, you may hear this and think, well, Ryan, you can play the trumpet and why wouldn't you be able to do this? But you can hear on these previous repetitions from the previous days that it wasn't this kind of quality, that I had to put learning at the forefront. It wasn't just, oh, I could sort of play it and it worked itself out, but I really had to dig and figure out, why am I making mistakes? How do I fix those mistakes? How can I use a process to go through the process of fixing those mistakes? And then how can I use the process itself to continue to ingrain healthy habits? This is when we talk about deliberate practice. That's this process of assessing what's wrong. When we talk about the gold method, we're talking about this structure of I'm playing this repetition at this beat per minute, and then I'm doing these other repetitions and I'm recording on these repetitions. This structure itself helps me to practice deliberately because I have to think less about what I'm gonna do and how fast I'm gonna do it, because the gold method app takes care of that. So I have much more bandwidth just to focus on the quality of my playing and how to make it better. Now, what I find interesting about this waveform is there's this huge gap right here. Let's find out what that gap is. Yeah, just like a complete brain fart. Yeah, you can hear it's just a complete brain fart. I just all of a sudden couldn't do it. This happens from time to time, no matter how well we know something, no matter how much we think we can just sort of coast. If we're not focused on what we're doing at all times, it's very easy for something like that to happen. So we're gonna keep going here. I wanna listen to this last time that we would see section 1 to see what sort of the end of the first week would sound like for a full entire section. The Etude program and the Gold Method app is set for each section to appear 4 times per week. So this is the 4th time in the week. We're gonna see, how does it go? Am I able to play this? What's the result of the first week of work through recording and doing the Gold Method app program? I think I added an extra note in there. Okay, so that was the first repetition. You can already see there's a gap in the waveform here. So let's hear what that sounds like. Just couldn't do it, messed up. And then honestly, a great run through of that repetition. So what I found myself struggling with was this balance of, I actually feel like I'm starting to understand the lick, but it's not yet a part of me. It's not yet just something that I can sort of put on autopilot and I'll still play at a high level. This is basically what I'm now focused on for the rest of the program is, I know it, I understand it, can I just bring my focus to the present moment on what I'm doing, and can I do that over and over and over and over again as I continue to ingrain this as habit. All right, I hope that gives you a sense of what my practice sessions looked like and how I recorded. Of course, I didn't record every single repetition, and I'm not gonna share everything that I recorded because it's just more of the same. Hopefully you get the idea. It was an okay run, or I made this brain fart or something like that, and then the next one I tried to not make that same brain fart again, basically. What I wanna do now is I wanna share a recording of the entire Etude done at 64 beats per minute. This was a full run I did at the end of the first week. So I'm halfway done with the 2-week Gold Method program. I wanted to see, where am I at? I definitely couldn't do it at 86 beats per minute yet, but 64 was the top tempo I had taken everything. So I thought, what would happen if I tried to put it all together? And this is the result. Oh, come on. So, although I messed up the ending and I was unhappy about that, in general, what this says to me, how I would interpret this, is there is a level of understanding, there's a level of learning that has taken place. Is this performance ready? Not even in the slightest, but I'm only 1 week into learning this. And maybe for some people, 1 week is the maximum they would spend on an etude. I know not that long ago, I was spending 1 week on etudes or less. And so I've completely shifted my perspective into doing it for 3 or 4 weeks sometimes, so that I can really deeply learn an etude and see what am I capable of doing. So at the end of week 1, I can more or less play it at 64 beats per minute. And so I'm thinking, all right, just keep going. Let's see this process through. So for week 2, I didn't record at all. I did some mental rehearsal whenever it was needed, usually just before I would start my 4 repetitions. And then I just played through the repetitions as they were assigned. And so there's no recordings to check there. It's just kind of my practicing. And it was just more of this type of thing where I'm trying to, dig through it. But I felt pretty confident that without recording, I was still going to be able to make progress because I had done so much of it in the first week. So what we have here that we're going to listen to is a full run of the etude at the end of week 2, at the end of the program. This is going to be at 86. I actually end up bumping it a little bit faster than that by accident. I don't really have control over this etude at this speed at this point, but I just want to share it as sort of a baseline almost for us to say, well, this is where I was at the end of the program, so that when we share the final recording, we can kind of see where we went from there, and I can explain how I got there. Let's take a listen. So obviously that was not good. So what we have is a completed program, and this is pretty normal for me on these Bitsch etudes because for me they're so difficult. I end up just already planning to do 1 cycle of the Gold Method app, and then I'm going to do another one. I'm going to start it over. So what I did this time is, instead of running it as is, I ended up playing every section every day. So I got through the whole program in 4 days instead of 6, because I felt like I had enough understanding and I knew what I was doing well enough that I could kind of speed up the process a little bit at this point in the second time through. The other thing I did was I combined sections 2 and 3 and sections 4 and 5, so I had 3 longer sections rather than 5 kind of shorter sections. So I noticed that when I got done with these 4 days of the second cycle of this Etude program, everything was still feeling good, but 86 beats per minute still felt fast. I didn't feel like I had any control, and I realized that I'm just not going to be able to go straight through the Gold Method program and be okay. I'm going to have to do something a little bit different because this music is just that difficult for me. So I remembered back to a blog post I wrote a very long time ago about how to approach really difficult music, and I tried to apply that here. What I did was I played the first measure by itself at 92 beats per minute 4 times. And then I played the second measure by itself at 92 beats per minute 4 times. And then I played both measures together at 92 beats per minute 4 times. And then measure 3 4 times, measure 4 4 times, measure 3 and measure 4 4 times. I said instead of a section that's super long, I'm gonna come down to just 1 measure, and I'm gonna go faster than what I'm capable of doing to get used to how my fingers need to move, but in a chunk that I can manage and I can think about. This proved to be very helpful for me, and I think because of all of this work I did establishing a foundation, I was able to kind of turn a corner really quickly here, and even after one day of doing that at 92 beats per minute, the next day I tried to run it again at those faster tempos and things felt good. This is that recording. The next day after I did some things at 92 beats per minute, I ran it again. I tried to go at 86 beats per minute, and it was actually a little bit too fast again. I accidentally went between 92 and 96 beats per minute, which for me is crazy because I was struggling to do it at 86, and now I'm gonna be able to sort of get through the Etude pretty well at 96 or so beats per minute. So I actually made a video out of this one because I was considering this is the one that I would share. I have one more after this. I hope you enjoy this particular recording of Bitsch 16. So as you can hear, that recording was pretty solid, to be honest, but there were some mistakes that were just bugging me. I wish I could have had it back. I had been practicing this Etude for literally a month at this point, and I just wanted to be done. So as tempted as I was to just say, that's good enough, I really felt like I could do just a little bit better. So the next day, the very next day, I warmed up and I got everything feeling okay and pretty good or whatever, and then I did one more first take recording, and this is the one that I was satisfied with and the one that I'm submitting for my Bitsch recording project. I hope you enjoy. Alright everyone, that's going to be all for this video. I hope it was interesting for you to kind of peek back behind the curtain a little bit of my practice sessions and kind of hear some of my thought processes about the problems I'm having, how I need to fix them, and ultimately how to just sort of stay patient with the process even if everything isn't going the way you want it to. Thanks so much for watching the video. I'm going to put a video here up on the screen where I went through a different Bitsch Etude and walked you through some of my practice session on that particular Etude, and so I hope this is helpful for you to continue diving in and seeing how I approach my practice. Take care.